Do you want a top score in CELPIP speaking? By understanding each and every part of the test, you'll know exactly what to do on test day. Let's take a closer look at all CELPIP speaking tasks that you'll face on test day. So how many tasks are there in CELPIP speaking? There are 8 tasks. The first is giving advice. Second, talking about a personal experience. Third, describing a scene. Fourth, making predictions. Fifth, comparing and persuading. Sixth, dealing with a difficult situation. Seventh, expressing opinions. And eighth, describing an unusual situation. In total, the entire speaking test lasts about 15 to 20 minutes. But before we get to the first speaking task, be sure to click that subscribe button for more great CELPIP videos. Speaking task 1, giving advice. In speaking task 1, you will read a prompt about someone who needs advice. Perhaps the person needs help to make a decision or prepare for something like that. Then you have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 90 seconds to give your response. This is what speaking task 1 looks like. In this case, the prompt tells you the scenario, which is that your friend is going for a job interview and she's nervous about her lack of work experience. So this is the scenario that she needs advice about. And in this case, you're told what sort of advice to give, which is what she can say and how she can feel confident. You get 30 seconds to prepare your response. You can make notes, and you should try to come up with 3 ideas or suggestions. You should also make sure you support each of your ideas or suggestions with reasons. You then have 90 seconds to respond. As you give your answer in the test, you'll be able to see how much time you have remaining. Try to use all of the 90 seconds, but also allow time to finish by giving a final or concluding sentence. Remember that you should address your response as if you're talking to the person directly. For example, by saying you could or you should, or other similar phrases. Let's have a look at how you're scored. To do well in the speaking tasks, you need to know what you're speaking will be judged on. The assessment of your speaking will be scored out of a possible 12 points. Your speaking will be evaluated based on 4 categories. First, coherence and meaning, which means checking if you have a clear message with a number of quality ideas that are organized and supported with examples. Second, lexical range and vocabulary, which means whether you use a range of phrases and words accurately. Third, listenability and comprehensibility, which assesses how you use sentence structure combined with pronunciation and rhythm to make it easy to understand you. And fourth, task fulfillment, which means checking whether you are able to address and complete the task within the time limit. Let's go over a few tips for practice. Start by addressing the person by name, like, "Hi Anna, how are you?" And then you can paraphrase the prompt and say something like this. "I know you're a little worried about your upcoming job interview because you don't have a lot of experience yet. Let me give you some advice." Then use phrases to suggest ideas or advice, like "you should," or "why don't you," "if I were you, I would," or "you might want to try." Remember, in this task, you have to speak for 90 seconds. So, if possible, try to have 3 ideas or suggestions with reasons for each point, so that you can speak fluently the whole time. Finally, try to finish before 90 seconds and make a final sentence like, "I hope that helps and good luck." So that's speaking task 1. Before we look at the next speaking task, Remember to click the link in the description below to check out E2's CELPIP preparation course at e2testprep.com. Let's look at speaking task 2, talking about a personal experience. The second task of the speaking test is fairly straightforward. You're going to talk about a personal experience. You'll first read a written prompt. The prompt will ask you to tell a story about a relevant past experience that happened to you. The prompt may also suggest specific things you can talk about in your response. Then you have 30 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds to give your response. In this case, you can see that the personal experience it's asking you to talk about is a movie or TV show you watched in the past. And it suggests that you could talk about the story, the characters, or why you did or didn't like the show. In the 30 seconds preparation time, think of a relevant experience from your past. But remember, if you can't think of a relevant experience from your real life, then you can invent one. You're being assessed on your English speaking skills, not your honesty. Think of what you can say to address all parts of the prompt, and make notes to help you remember your ideas as you're speaking. Think of as many details and descriptions as you can using WH questions. Who, what, when, where, and why. So, who was there? What happened? When did it happen? Where was it? And why did it happen? That should give you plenty to talk about. For this task, you have 60 seconds to respond. You'll be able to see how much time you have remaining. Try to use all of the 60 seconds, but also finish by giving a final or concluding sentence. Let's move on to how you're scored. Your speaking will be scored out of a possible 12 points. Your speaking will be evaluated based on 4 categories. The first category is coherence and meaning, which is whether you have a clear message with a number of quality ideas that are organized and supported with examples. The second category is lexical range, which looks at whether you use a range of phrases and words accurately. The third category is listenability and comprehensibility, which means your use of sentence structure combined with pronunciation and rhythm to make it easy to understand you. And the fourth category is task fulfillment, which means how well you're able to address and complete the task within the time limit. Here are some tips to help you do well in speaking task 2. It's important to use the simple past when you're telling a story about a personal experience. Try to use different verbs to show that you know a variety of past tense forms. Be sure to provide details and descriptive language. For example, talk about how things looked or sounded and how you felt. Try to address everything mentioned in the prompt. Finish your story with a final sentence, such as, "It was a great film and I highly recommend it to others." Great work, that's it for speaking task 2. But before you go, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that notification bells so you'll be the first to know when a new CELPIP video comes up. Let's keep going with CELPIP Speaking Task 3. Speaking Task 3 involves describing a scene. You will see a picture. Above the picture will be a prompt telling you to describe the picture. You will then have 30 seconds to prepare your description and 60 seconds to give your description. So, you will see an illustration of a scene with different people doing different things. The prompt will ask you to describe the picture like this. Describe some things that are happening in the picture as well as you can. The person with whom you are speaking cannot see the picture. So you need to describe what is happening in the picture very clearly so that someone else can visualize exactly what you can see. In the 30 seconds preparation time, study the picture for the setting and people. Where are they in relation to other things? And what are they doing? Ask yourself, where is this scene? Roughly, how many people are there? Who are they and what do they look like? Where are they in the picture? What are they doing? Take notes on descriptions of what is happening and use prepositions of place like beside or in front of, or note where people are in relation to each other in the picture. You then have 60 seconds to respond. Don't worry, you'll be able to see the picture during your response. And as you give your response during the test, you'll be able to see how much time you have remaining. So try to cover every scene in the picture. As you can see in this picture, there are lots of things happening. Children playing, running, climbing, and swinging. Remember, it's better to describe the key things in vivid detail than to try to talk about everything without a lot of description. Try to talk for the whole 60 seconds and to finish by giving a final or concluding sentence. In this case, you could conclude with something like, "They all look like they're having a great time." Now, let's take a look at how you're scored. The assessment of your speaking will be scored out of a possible 12 points. Your speaking will be evaluated based on 4 categories. 1. Coherence and meaning, which is your ability to deliver a clear message with a number of quality ideas that are organized and supported with examples. Number 2. Lexical range and vocabulary, which means your accurate use of a range of phrases and words. 3. Listenability and comprehensibility, which refers to your sentence structure combined with your use of pronunciation and rhythm to make it easy to understand you. And 4. Task fulfillment, which means your ability to address and complete the task within the time limit. Here are a few tips for test day. It's important to describe the scene you're looking at so that the listener can easily imagine what you see. Start with a kind of general description of the setting, like in this picture, there are several children playing in a playground, maybe at school or at recess. There are a lot of kids, boys and girls, doing a variety of activities. They're probably about 8 years old or so. Then, pick a key part of the scene and describe the person. For example, what they look like, or what they're wearing and what they're doing. Use adjectives and use the present continuous to describe the people and describe what they're doing. Also remember to use prepositions of place to explain where people are. For example, for this picture, you could say, "One happy child is swinging on a swing. Next to him, there's a boy wearing a striped sweater and a cap sitting on a toy duck." That's CELPIP Speaking Task 3. Now it's time to practice this task with high-quality practice questions at e2testprep.com. Simply click the link in the description below to get started. Let's keep going with CELPIP Speaking Task 4. In Speaking Task 4, you will see the same illustration from Task 3, but this time the prompt will ask you to make predictions about what you think will happen in the next scene. You will have 30 seconds to prepare your ideas and 60 seconds to give your response. This is what Speaking Task 4 looks like. As you can see, it's the same illustration from Task 3. The picture often has many people in a busy setting, like this one, with kids in a playground. The prompt is standard and says, "In this picture, what do you think will most probably happen next?" In the 30 seconds of preparation time, you should think of what each person in the picture will do next. And be sure to make notes. Remember, modals like will probably or might will be useful. You can base your ideas on facts or your imagination. You should also include 1 or 2 optional possibilities. For example, for this picture, you could say, "The boy on the skateboard will probably run into another kid, but he might be skilled and careful, so he might go around the other kids." To plan quickly, just make short notes or think of the key people and their future actions using verbs like boy skateboard will You then have 60 seconds to give your response. Keep in mind that you will be able to see the picture during your response. As you give your answer in the test, you will also be able to see how much time you have remaining. Make your descriptions accurate and detailed. Give some reasons for your predictions based on what you see in the picture. Try to use all of the 60 seconds, but also finish by giving a final or concluding sentence. Let's talk about how you're scored. For your speaking, you'll be marked out of a possible 12 points in 4 categories. First of all, coherence and meaning, which means whether you have a clear message with a number of quality ideas that are organized and supported with examples. Secondly, lexical range and vocabulary, which is whether you use a range of phrases and words accurately. Third, there's listenability and comprehensibility, which refers to your sentence structure combined with pronunciation and rhythm to make it easy to understand you. And fourth is task fulfillment, which is how well you're able to address and complete the task within the time limit. Here are a few tips to get started. Start with a central part of the scene and identify the person, for example, by what they look like or what they're doing. Then, make predictions about what they will do and give a reason based on what you see in the picture. Make sure it's clear who you're talking about, but remember the main focus is on making predictions, not describing the scene again. Next, move on to another person who you can identify by where they are in relation to the first, like beside him or in front of her. Then, give the prediction about that person with a reason. Remember, it's important in Task 4 to use future tenses or modals to talk about what will happen, such as the simple future with will. You should also use a variety of modals to express possibilities such as might, may, and could. Also, try to use adverbs like most likely or probably. For example, you could say, the boy who's riding the skateboard will probably run into one of the other kids because it's so busy, but he might not. Maybe he's skilled and careful, so he could possibly just go around them all. In front of him, the girl who's skipping will most likely keep skipping until the bell rings for school. That's CELPIP Speaking Task 4. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell for notifications so you'll be the first to know when a new CELPIP video comes out. Let's take a quick look at CELPIP Speaking Task 5. In this task, you'll be comparing and persuading. There are actually 3 parts to Speaking Task 5. In the first part, you'll read a prompt that gives you a scenario in which you need to make a choice between 2 options. Below that, you'll see the 2 options. Each option will contain a picture and around 4 bullet points of information. You'll have 60 seconds of preparation time to use the pictures and information provided to choose which option you prefer. If you do not choose one after 60 seconds, the computer will choose one for you. In the second part of Task 5, you will see the item that you or the computer chose, with a new item that someone else prefers. You will have 60 seconds of preparation time. This time, you need to prepare your response to persuade the other person that your choice is better. The final part of Task 5 is the speaking part. In this part, you'll have 60 seconds in which to use the information given to compare the 2 options and persuade the other person of your choice. In the 60 seconds for preparing your response, you should study the pictures and details given and see how they compare. For example, what are the main differences? Which option is cheaper, bigger, or easier to drive, or better for the environment? Try to come up with at least 3 reasons why your choice is better than the other option using the details provided. Let's take a look at how you'll be scored. To do well in this task, you need to know how your speaking will be assessed. It will be scored out of a possible 12 points based on 4 categories. The first is coherence and meaning, which means whether you have a clear message with a number of quality ideas that are organized and supported with examples. The second is your lexical range and vocabulary, which is whether you use a range of phrases and words accurately. The third item is your listenability and comprehensibility, which is your sentence structure, combined with pronunciation and rhythm that make it easy to understand you. And the fourth category is task fulfillment, which is whether you're able to address and complete the task within the time limit. Let's go over a few quick tips for speaking task 5. In speaking task 5, you should talk directly to the person you're trying to persuade. You should start by addressing that person and acknowledging their choice. For example, you could say, "Hey Tony, I see you'd like to rent the SUV. I guess you figure we could use the extra space and the more powerful engine." But then go on to explain why your choice is better. Try to give 3 or more reasons for your choice. These reasons should be based on a comparison of the pictures and information provided, using comparative language such as comparative adjectives like bigger, better, faster, or cheaper. Also remember to use your own words rather than just repeating the words given in the options. Also, be sure to use a persuasive but friendly tone, as the purpose of this task is to persuade the other person of your choice, but you should still be polite. That's all for task 5. Now you can go ahead and do some practice. Let's get started with CELPIP Speaking Task 6, dealing with a difficult situation. You will read a prompt which gives a scenario that involves a difficult situation in everyday life. You will be presented with 2 options of ways to solve the problem. Then you have to explain your choice to a friend, family member, or colleague. You'll be given 60 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to give your answer. In this case, your friends are getting married and they can't decide whether to go on a short, local, inexpensive honeymoon like the wife-to-be wants, or a longer, overseas, expensive honeymoon like the husband-to-be wants. As you can see, you're given 2 options for how to deal with the situation and who to talk to. In this case, you can either talk to the wife to explain why the husband's idea is better, or talk to the husband to say why the wife's idea is better. So you have to choose one side. In the 60 seconds, you have to prepare, decide which option you think is better, and think of 2 or 3 reasons to support your decision. Think of examples and details to support these reasons. It's a good idea to write down a few ideas to refer back to when you're speaking. You then have 60 seconds to respond. In the test, you'll be able to see how much time you have remaining as you give your answer. Try to use all of the 60 seconds, but also finish by giving a final or concluding sentence. Let's take a look at how you'll be scored. The assessment of your speaking will be scored out of a possible 12 points. Your speaking will be evaluated based on 4 categories. First, coherence and meaning, which means having a clear message with a number of quality ideas that are organized and supported with examples. Second, lexical range and vocabulary, which means using a range of phrases and words accurately. Third, listenability and comprehensibility, which means having good sentence structure combined with pronunciation and rhythm to make it easy to understand you. And fourth, task fulfillment, which means being able to address and complete the task within the time limit. Let's take a look at some tips. In speaking task 6, start by directly addressing the person you choose, in this case, the husband or the wife, and state what your decision is. Then, go on to explain the reasons for your opinion in an organized manner, using transition words like first of all and moreover. You should also back up your reasons with details and examples to justify your choice. Remember that this is a difficult situation in which you're arguing against the opinion of the person you're speaking to. So, you need to be very careful to use a tone that is appropriate to the context. In this case, let's say you chose to talk to the husband and explain why the shorter, cheaper honeymoon is better. You could say, "You know, George, I think that Mary has a good point. The more expensive honeymoon to Europe you want would be memorable and romantic, but if you take the cheaper holiday, you'll have a lot of money left over, and you can spend it on setting up your new house." Great. Now it's time to do some practice. Let's have a look at CELPIP Speaking Task 7. In Speaking Task 7, it's now time for you to show your skills in expressing opinions. You'll read a prompt which will ask you whether you agree or disagree with an idea about a familiar social issue. You will have 30 seconds to prepare and 90 seconds to give your response. As you can see, it asks you to give your opinion about a social topic. In this case, whether you think children should begin school at 3 years old. You're also asked to explain your reasons for your opinion. In the 30 seconds you have to prepare, you need to read the question and decide whether you agree or disagree. Then think of 2 or 3 logical and persuasive reasons to support your opinion. Make your argument stronger by supporting your reasons with examples and details. It's a good idea to make notes and write down a few ideas to refer back to when you're speaking. This speaking tasks is one of the longer speaking tasks. You have 90 seconds in which to respond. As you give your answer in the test, you can see how much time you have remaining. Try to use all of the 90 seconds, but also aim to finish by giving a final or concluding sentence. Giving persuasive arguments to support your opinion will also help you. Let's have a look at how you'll be scored. The assessment of your speaking will be scored out of 12 points. Your speaking will be evaluated based on 4 categories. First, coherence and meaning. How clear your message is, and whether you give a number of quality ideas that are organized and supported with examples. Second, lexical range and vocabulary. The range of phrases you use and the words you use and how accurately you use them. Listenability and comprehensibility. Your sentence structure combined with pronunciation and rhythm. And finally, task fulfillment. Your ability to address and complete the task within the time limit. Here are a few tips to get started. In Speaking Task 7, start by introducing your opinion using a phrase such as, "in my opinion," or "I strongly believe that." Then, answer the question with your position. Provide 2 or 3 reasons for your opinion, and be sure to support each of those reasons with details and examples. In this case, you could start by saying, "In my opinion, at age 3, children can begin their schooling, provided that it's in an appropriate preschool setting with a focus on social skills and language development." You can use an if clause to contrast what it would be like if your position did not happen. For example, you could say, "If kids don't begin schooling until they're 5 or 6, they may have a harder time adjusting to being around others and away from their parents. We're almost there. Just one more task to go. Make sure you hit that like button. Here we are, the final task of the CELPIP speaking test, Task 8. In this task, you have to describe an unusual situation. You'll read a prompt describing a scenario in which you see something surprising or unusual. Below that, you'll see a picture which illustrates the unusual item or situation. The prompt will ask you to describe the item or situation in detail to someone who cannot see it. You'll have 30 seconds to prepare what to say and 60 seconds to give your response. In this case, according to the prompt, the scenario is seeing an animal performance at a circus, which you have to describe to your friend, Danny. You can see the prompt gives you some direction over what to say in your response. For example, it says you should describe in detail what the animals look like and what they're doing. And it directs you to ask Danny a specific question. In the test, you should be careful to make sure you cover everything the prompt tells you to do. Make notes of these points so that you remember to cover them when you're speaking. Below the prompt, you can see this crazy picture of a bear riding a bike with a dog on its back. How would you describe this scene to someone who can't see it? Do you know the words for any items in this scene? In the 30 seconds of preparation time for Task 8, you should study the picture and note down any details you can think of to describe it. Remember, this is an unusual situation, so you might not know all the exact vocabulary. If you don't know a word, how else could you explain it? Try to use your vocabulary in new ways to describe any parts for which you don't know the precise terms. Think of how to describe the item or situation so that someone who's not there could clearly visualize what it is that you see. You can use some words in the prompt for ideas to expand on. You then have 60 seconds to respond. In the test, you'll be able to see the picture and how much time you have as you give your answer. Try to use all of the 60 seconds, but also try to finish by giving a final or concluding sentence. Now, let's look at how you'll be scored. Your speaking will be scored out of a possible 12 points. It will be based on 4 categories. First, coherence and meaning, which means whether you have a clear message with a number of quality ideas that are organized and supported with examples. Second is lexical range and vocabulary, which is whether you use a range of phrases and words accurately. Third, listenability and comprehensibility, which means how you use sentence structure, combined with pronunciation and rhythm to make it easy to understand you. And finally, task fulfillment, which is whether you're able to address and complete the task within the time limit. And finally, here are some quick tips. In speaking Task 8, it's a good idea to start by directly addressing the person you're talking to and explaining the situation in the prompt, but using your own words where possible. Then, your job is to describe something the listener cannot see but could easily picture based on your explanation. So, describe what you're looking at in detail using adjectives, varied vocabulary, and the present continuous. Remember, if you don't know the precise words for something, try your best to describe it so the listener gets the idea. For example, you could say, "Hi, Danny. I'm here at the traveling circus, and you'll never believe it, but there's a black bear riding a tricycle." But if you don't know the word tricycle, you could say a 3-wheeled bike, or a bike with 3 wheels instead. That's it. That's everything you need to know about CELPIP speaking. But this is only the beginning. You need high-quality practice questions and methods and expert teaching. And all of this is available at e2testprep.com. Click the link in the description below to sign up for a free trial so you can get the CELPIP score you want. My name is Mark, and I'll see you soon.